All right, so real quick, I wanted to intro this podcast. Now, I don't think I normally will do this, but for this one, we had a little bit of an internet issue. I think it was on my end, but the internet was kind of, at the beginning of this podcast, was a little bit weird, so like it's real blurry and glitchy, mainly on me, which I don't say much or do much. Nobody wants to see me, so it's not a big deal. But I wanted to tell you that so that you watch for a little bit and it'll get better. It gets better as it goes, but the very beginning, it's a little glitchy on me, so just fight through that. It gets better, I promise. It's a really good podcast. Go check out William Alderman's social media, YouTube, all that stuff, because he's got some cool stuff on there. Stick around, hit like, subscribe, leave a comment. That stuff really helps the algorithm and gets it in front of more people. So I appreciate that a ton. Thanks for watching.
Hunt hungry.
All right, William, man, I'm glad we got to do this. Hopefully we have no internet issues. We've got kind of a strange story about how we came to know each other. You're actually a winner of one of my giveaways, like back in December or January, Tack Veins giveaways. And when I go to your Instagram to tell you, like, hey, you're the winner, I see you're shooting bows. You're in the same like indoor national league that I'm in. So a lot of common things. I got to look at your scores and I'm like, dang, this guy can shoot. I go check out your YouTube channel and you got some awesome stuff on YouTube. And I thought, man, we get this podcast thing up and running. I want to talk to you on there because you're a killer with that target bow. So what I want to do just to start is just kind of get to know you, rapid question stuff. I want people to kind of know like who you are, what you do, and stuff like that. So start off, number one, what bow or bows are you shooting right now?
Yeah, so for hunting, I'm using my V3X. I've found no real need to update or upgrade it. It is still treating me very nicely. So I got the V3X 33. And then in regards, and I have that set up at 75 pounds at 31.5-inch draw. So that thing is definitely maxed out to what its capacity can do. And I have the Title 38 right now in all white. And I have that same thing set up to 31.5-inch draw. Roughly, obviously, everything is give and take, but trying to keep it as tight as I can with it set up at 70 pounds with 70% let off.
Yeah, awesome. Those are both great bows. What release are you running right now?
Release, I am actually using the GOAT. So when I first jumped into shooting, I had the basic True Fire, but then once I got the V3X, I was like, you know what? Let me see what this world actually has to offer. And I knew that there was kind of that weird hinge or button kind of debate, like which one is better for practicing or learning how to shoot. And so once I found out that the GOAT could do both, I was like, for $50 more than most releases, I can get both in one release. So I was like, yeah, no, definitely the way I want to go. And I actually used it while shooting a Hoyt, believe it or not. But beyond the point, I fell in love with it. Guy was, it was the shop owners, like one of the guys that work there. They let me use the GOAT and I fell in love with it and literally have attempted to go away from it, but I can't find a reason to.
Yeah, I gotta try the GOAT. I see a lot of people like talking about that and recommending it, so I gotta try it at some point. What arrows are you shooting right now?
I am so Victory through and through right now. I'm shooting the RIP TKOs, the 250 spine, and then I'm shooting the VTAC 27s, which are some heavy mamma jammas. Those things will slow down my bow real quick. So yeah. It's pretty much a headache, but I mean, it still flies.
How much weight are you putting in the front of
poundage?
Yeah, how much weight are you putting in front of those 27s?
So I have the lowest that Victory makes, which is 150, and I haven't looked into any of the other like aftermarket stuff, because again, it was kind of one of those like. I stepped into a few archery shops and kind of asked what fits the right inside diameter. And I was like, man, this doesn't fit, but it's the same arrow as a 27 versus 27. And I was just like, for me to keep it as safe as possible, this is what I'm going to do. I would really love a lot less up front. Like with my hunting arrows, I only have 107, whatever the hit inserts weigh. Because I'm not a big proponent on, hey, I need a ton up front. I haven't tested a lot with it, but
Yeah.
I've yet to hear anybody that was like, this is make or break, that were some high level guys.
Yeah, but what you got going on your target arrows are working great, so don't change anything. Did you kill any deer last year?
Yeah, man, I actually killed quite a bit. I shot 4 does and 1 buck, because that's actually, I don't just hunt just for trophies or just for fun. It's actually what my family eats throughout the year. So I had a friend give us a deep freezer because they were moving, and they're like, dude, we're not going to take it with us, like there's no way. And so we have 2 deep freezers. We keep one completely filled downstairs, and we just kind of pick from it and fill up the one upstairs as we need. And I do all my own processing, so I hang it in my back. So from the field all the way to the dining room table, there's no middleman for us, and so it kind of keeps everything nice and fluid. But I will say, obviously, there is some pride in getting some nice antlers, and so I did get a nice little 8-pointer last year in all public land type hunting. But I mean, it's all fun, it's all work. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's great. Yeah, that is. I do my own processing too, and there is some little bit of pride to that. Like, you know, this I did everything,
sure.
filled the table. So that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, man, your YouTube channel is great. I watched a video today about that DIY arrow saw. Like, that's how I started too, making a Dremel on strapping it to a piece of wood, and then like having a clamp that moved the board up. So, I mean, I did the exact same thing. So I thought that was awesome. I really thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So make sure if you're watching this, go check out his channel. What's your YouTube channel called? Is it just William Alderman?
Yeah, it's self-named William Alderman through and through. Yeah, except my Instagram, I'm starting like its own little side piece with that. But
yeah, and I'll put all the links down below in the description. But yeah, definitely people need to go check that out. So the unique thing was we were in the same indoor league. We weren't shooting the same like categories or whatever classes, but we were in the same league, and we both made it to nationals. You did better than me, I can assure you that. How did your indoor tournament end?
Yeah, so I ended up finishing 3rd, but the bad part about that is I qualified 2nd. So I actually lost to the 3rd place guy. It was my first time kind of getting used to the whole process. I actually have a podcast where I was actually talking to like a sports psychiatrist, if you will. He also does like school counseling, so he kind of does both, where he works with professional guys and also kind of does some sub stuff with our school. And I was kind of like working through some of that, and I just really just I kind of went on the other end and kind of went so much energy to try to stuff my mental game down, because everybody's like, oh, you're going to get panicky with all the lights, because, you know, TSO, they do a pretty good job of actually getting people there, getting lights and everything else, which makes it a really fun environment. And so for me, coming from football, I was like, I don't want to use it and come with that same energy, because that never helps me inside of archery. Like for football, I was the guy crying before games and yelling and running up and down. If I could do flips, I would have been doing backflips. But in archery, I've kind of learned a whole different side of competing in regards to mentally preparing. So I went from totally extreme of like yelling and going crazy before a game to I'm going completely zen, and I think I zen myself to a 3rd place finish. But with that being my first year, there's a lot of lessons learned. But within all the lessons learned, it was a great experience, and I'm excited to keep on actually competing and see how far I can go next year.
Yeah, no, your scores were great. You were shooting great. You did better than me, because I think I was like top 8 going. I was 6 or something like that. And I had this great plan. I was going to put a little extra weight on my stabilizers to help, because I knew I'd be nervous. No matter, I could have put a cinder block on that bow. I couldn't keep it from moving. It was going to move every which way. So, I got the nerves and shook up there, and just didn't look good. So, yeah, you definitely did better than me. You got paid a little bit of money, and the guy that beat me was shooting like a 1990s Hoyt, you know. So he beat me with his old hunting bow. So yeah, he got me, and I'm man enough to admit it. So yeah, I think I finished 6th. He moved on and I didn't. So I came in at 6th, and I think he moved on and I stayed at 6th. Yeah, the way that tournament works, which is really cool. It's a really cool tournament. It is like the lights and the stage. It is nerve wracking, but it's really cool that you get up there and get to do that. So, what's the best score you've ever shot at an indoor game? Like if in our league, 330 is perfect, right?
Yeah, so 330. Gosh, I shot a three. Dude, gosh, this is not good. I know I shot my first 300 on my second time shooting like a competition, but I can't remember because in my head I was still just keeping track of like just like overall like what that score was, because that was kind of everybody was like, this is the boogeyman. Like if you could crack that bug, then like you've done something. But I want to say it was probably through 326 or something like that.
I was thinking I'm seeing you in the 320s, which is incredible for that game. The way the X's are scored as 11s, that's a great score. That's really good. So I wanted to have you on to help coach me a little bit. So what I've watched your YouTube videos about like your practice sessions and stuff. What's your practice session look like for indoor archery? Like, how are you practicing? What do you anything you do, or you just go shoot?
So it kind of depends on the day. So it's kind of a tricky question. And so it depends on what I'm really like kind of trying to improve. Like there's some things like when I feel like I'm not gripping the bow consistently and just feeling like everything setting up is wrong, but everything else post setup feels really, really good. So there's like little things that I've learned along the way that I've been trying to like utilize on days when I feel like that. Whether it be like a hair tie that I put on my hand, and that is kind of hard to really explain without me showing you like really what I'm doing with it. But to try to like help consistency in my grip and like what I'm feeling and working on my pre-shot process, because I find that like if I don't get that right, I'm trying to fight my bow being level, and so that ends up being like a headache. And then that whole shooting, like that whole process just kind of goes to crap. What my practice looks like most of the time is genuinely what my videos are. Some of my videos are with me shooting in my living room. Now I don't record those when my family's there, but it'd be like nights of just like hanging out. And instead of me like sitting down and just watching the movie, we'll have a movie on downstairs, and they'll be watching the movie and I'll be shooting right across their laps, basically I think it's about 16 or 17 yards. So I don't usually get a full 20 yards practice, but it gives me an indoor feel. But that could be anywhere from a full game's end all the way. And when I shoot ends, I usually shoot 2 targets at a time to keep my arrow count pretty high. And that way I don't feel fatigued when I'm actually competing. So I'll shoot 6 to 8 arrows every single round, and I'll score them separately. So I'll shoot my bottom right, bottom left, then top. And then I'll shoot my top target, bottom right, bottom left, top. And then the reason why I started doing that as well was, one, because I wanted the arrow count, like I just said, but also I was watching some videos of people going to like Lancaster and stuff like that and having to shoot top bail and bottom bail, and being uncomfortable with kind of changing with where the target is at. And so I didn't want that to ever be an issue for me. And it actually does change how I'm applying pressure into my palm, which is odd to say just with the little bit, but when you're shooting for, the little X, those little things start really showing its light. And when I shoot outside, I find that it's a little bit harder to be consistent with my thing, especially when shooting for the little thing, because I can't see my fiber. I don't know how people do it, but I'm still problem shooting that with my actual like lens to clarifier setups. But that's where I get the most of my practice indoor and kind of going through that. And there's a lot more like nuance to it that I could go into, but I think that's enough for right now.
Yeah, well, it might be a 4-hour part. We'll have to come back and do that again, because I do want to get into the details of that. But like, so you're shooting Vegas targets indoors at close range, and you're getting like, what would you, 60 arrows ish, 60 to 100 arrows? What would you think? Like, what would you estimate how many arrows you think you're shooting every time?
Gosh, yeah. So on like the bare minimum when I'm able to shoot, it ends up being about, like, if it's like a quick day, I'll shoot about 60. If I actually have time, like if it's one of those like movie night days and we're just kind of hanging out as a family, we already ate dinner and nobody's really pressing for anybody's attention. It's just kind of us being together. I mean, I could shoot upward of like 200 plus arrows in a night. And that's like still feeling good. That's not me feeling like, oh, something's hurting or I'm kind of fighting through it. It's just, we have 2 hours of a movie going on and I get to shoot. And when you're not walking 40 yards or whatever, and you're able to just kind of rip them off and you're not interrupting anybody and you're not waiting for everybody else to walk down range or waiting for range to be clear. It kind of allows me to kind of keep my arrows kind of flying. So that's one of the benefits. When I first shot at a range and I realized like the benefit of me having just the 15 or whatever yards at home, I was like, I can't do this. Like this is mentally like mind numbing because it takes forever just to shoot a full round because you have to wait for everybody else to be done.
Yeah.
Where in 45 minutes, I can almost have about 100 arrows. And that's not me just promoting just a high arrow count just to promote a high arrow count. That's just because I'm limited on days that I can actually shoot. So I try to cram it in where I can and just try to be as focused as I can while I'm doing it.
Yeah, that kind of leads into the next question I was going to ask. So these high arrow count days, do you think it's good to shoot when you're tired so that you get comfortable shooting tired, or does it build bad habits? And I ask that because I've tried to shoot when I'm tired because your bow moves more, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get used to seeing this bow float more. But then I just find myself punching the trigger more, and so then it's like I don't know that I helped myself. I should have probably just set the bow down and walked away. But I don't know. I'm asking you because you're better than me. What do you recommend?
So I am definitely. So I would say shoot a lot when you feel good. Still shoot when you feel bad. In the general census. Now that means arrow count definitely I think should drop on those days, but I think it's the same thing of dealing with like a target panic in those days, right? Like if you can't conquer your brain when all things are going bad, then how are you going to expect, in my mind, to conquer it when your nerves are really, really high? I think they kind of go hand in hand. So just like you said, man, when I'm tired, I just end up punching and just trying to send it. Like even with me and trying to record more, I've noticed that becoming more of like a, hey, I just want to get some arrows sent off and I stop staying in my shot. And you'll see if you actually watch some of my videos, like I actually get like frustrated with some of my, like while I'm editing, I'll see like I'll barely even touch it and I'm sending it. And then there's other times where I'm slow everything down and just say, no, like forget this. I'm going to actually get on the trigger, forget the camera. I'm just sending it because I want to actually build good habits. And I think it's the same thing with trying to overcome that target panic, or while you're trying to overcome fatigue, it's the same mindset that just says, no, I'm going to make a mental decision to shoot the bow the way I want to shoot. Now, I do still fall in like a trigger punching style, if you will, because my sight picture does tell me when to fire, which is the only reason why my shot sense scores stay at like an 80, because I don't float over my target for a long time. Like once I feel it, as long as I've been settled on my thumb peg, that's when I send it. And so I actually like working up into fatigue, like on those days, like when I'm starting to feel, and I don't generally feel fatigue. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what people mean when they say like, man, I'm like dead tired. But when I start noticing my pin floating a little bit more, that's when I actually get kind of excited, where I'm like, okay, now I'm actually training. Now I'm learning how to like build a mental headspace that says, no, you can actually shoot through this. And when I first started doing that and seeing my pin float like a little bit more outside of that like yellow, that center, when I started seeing it, but then I would trust it, and then learning how to stabilize through kind of like a bigger muscles when that time would happen, because that I can't rely on my delts at that point. I really got to pull, I said my delts, but yeah, like my shoulder, I really got to pull through my lat a little bit more. And so like, to me, the benefit of working into fatigue or through fatigue. Now, I wouldn't tell you, hey, you worked a full day, you were out in the yard, you're dead tired, and you worked back that day, you need to go send 200 arrows. Most likely, you're probably going to create some bad habits there. But in my mind, if I can send off 30 high quality arrows in the midst of not feeling the greatest, and I can say like probably 20 out of those 30 were pretty solid, to me, I would take that as a W and not as a, man, I can't believe I had 10 like that I just threw to the curve. Because to me, when I'm fresh, I almost am more likely to just send them because it feels good, but I'm not really as focused as when I am tired. So that's kind of how I use fatigue or long days or whatever, like bad headspaces to kind of benefit me in my practice.
Yeah, you're reading my mind on this, because my next question is like, how do you deal with target panic, and what drills do you recommend, or tips you recommend to
I
fight
love
off
that.
target panic?
I love that. So I was in the I actually want to make a video about this. I'm probably the only YouTuber guy that hasn't recorded a target panic video just because at first it took me so long to really, so to give even more backstory. So this is my first year of like target archery. So using lenses and clarifiers. So actually being able to see pin float, because with my target rig, I mean, my hunting, like my V3X, like I don't really notice my pin jumping around a crap ton. Generally, for the most part, it settles. And so with the magnification, I was like, oh, I can kind of see where target panic kind of creeps in. But then I had to rewind my brain to remember what I did with my DXT when I first started hunting, because I was like, man, I want to hit the middle. I want to hit the middle. I'm a perfectionist. Like, hit the middle. Like, you got to hit the middle of these targets. That was before I even knew about paper. It was just me writing dots on a bunch of my DIY targets. And when I would like skim it, I would be pissed. I'd be like, no, like I need this thing to pinwheel right in the middle. So, but one thing I remember in the midst of all that, when I just got so mad at myself, I just was like, I noticed like I couldn't, that mind of when everything gets locked off. And I know I'm kind of giving a long-winded answer, but it goes into why I think this is such an important way to deal with target panic. But when I was working into my shot, like, and I would try to hold on middle, and then I couldn't get my bow up to it. Like, I could not get my sight to kind of settle. And then when I did, just like everybody else, like kind of send it, and and then get mad because it wasn't exactly where I wanted. Now, I was locked off target, but it was still roughly in the right area. It was like 3 inches low. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, what's going on? And I'll never forget with my mind, it was something that just like something happened where I was like, I am not going to send this until I have 3 seconds of like being on target. And I say 3 seconds, I wasn't that cerebral, but it was like until I'm able to hold this on it. It was kind of like a mental, I wasn't even getting on the trigger. I wasn't doing anything near the trigger. I was just like, I'm going to get this thing on, like right on dot. And then when I was able to conquer that, it was like, okay, well, now I'm going to get my finger on the trigger, but still not send it and still hold it. Like, and still at full draw, still being there. For me, it was still the mindset of, I need to conquer this, like, ick, because to me that's all I could vocabulary it as, like, and I didn't have a bunch of people around me that knew it, because I don't have like a high archery like community. I have a neighbor that also shoots, but he kind of is a hunter. He doesn't really think about like the details of it. I think he does in some ways, but it wasn't like I could go to him and be like, hey man, have you dealt with this and what have you done to fix it? It was just like, man, I just shoot my bow and I try to shoot so I'm good enough to kill a deer. And so I say all that to say, I think the best drill for me, without doing the whole like walk back or doing whatever, I think literally just getting inside of my own head in the midst of actually shooting, because I still kept it at 20 yards. I still kept it with a target, with an actual dot that I was aiming at, because I think those are the causations of the issue. So for me to run away from those causations, to me, was putting a Band-Aid on something that needed stitches. And so like I needed to actually do the surgical work. So me kind of working through my brain and realizing like nothing is going to happen. Just put it there and working through those steps. So like even in times where it might like try to creep up more so recently, it doesn't go that bad where I lock off target or below or high. It's just kind of like I can't get it to settle where I want it, because it's like I'm trying to get it there, then I just kind of get quick on the thumb. On those days, I truly like keep my thumb off the peg for the first part of my aiming, get it on the middle, and then settle it. And I kind of treat it kind of like the Joel Turner, like squeeze. But instead of the squeeze, I just go settle. And what I mean by settle is I try to get on the thumb peg. Like if this is my thumb peg, I try to legitimately let my fingers like sit on the thumb peg. And I have it set really, really light. So it can go still at whatever point where I really put pressure. But I want to be able to settle my thumb on it without sending it. And if it goes before I tell it to send, that's like a pass or fail. And that would be a fail. But then if I can get it on target, hold it, still feel good about it, I get on the thumb peg and I'm still settled. But once I see it starting jumping, I get off of the thumb peg. I don't try to fight through it with my finger on the thumb peg because there's too many things for my brain to focus on at that point. And so I literally would be at full draw, kind of working back and forth. And again, that's happened to me maybe like twice.
Yeah.
But that's the way that I have worked through it. And it seems to work for me and my brain. If I did all the other stuff like blank bailing, it would be way too dull, way too like non-stimulating for the way my brain the way my brain works. And so I would get right back to 20 or 40 or 100. And I would feel the same anxiety, and I never really dealt with the issue. And so that's without any deeper science or any bigger processes that's more detailed. That's like, oh, you need to walk back to this yardage and have this big of a target. I try not to be that cerebral, that detailed. I just try to keep it to I need to beat myself mentally and settle on the thumb peg. And if it starts going crazy, get off of it and fix the brain and say, dude, it's okay. Yeah. You're shooting a bow, so.
That's similar to what I do. I think and I'm one of those guys that made a video about it too, but I'm not an expert by any means, but those are types of things that help me, just like you're saying.
Me either.
Pull a little bit, but don't fire it. Just get comfortable. I mean, you're basically very similar to mine. What you said you're shooting a lens. What lens are you shooting? What magnification?
Yeah, so I'm shooting a 6-power lens with my Optum 29. Optum 29. I'm trying to find a 6-power lens. Hey, if you have an Optum 6-power lens for a 40 millimeter and you're looking to sell it, let me know. And I cannot find one, and I cannot afford one brand new, because those things, I am all about.
Have you tried Optics 300?
I have not. That's what came with my
Optics 300 has affordable lenses, like 50, $60 for a new one.
Really?
That may not be the best glass, but yeah, it may not be like the best glass, but it's going to be good enough. That's where all mine come from, all my lenses.
I am so glad I'm talking to you. Whenever we get off this, I need to write that down.
I'll shoot you a text. Now. I'll shoot you. I'm sure they have it. They've got literally every side. But what? So next thing here. So you're a strength trainer as well, right? So like you've got we could talk for days on your just life story, I think, all the things you've done, like arena football, strength trainer, award-winning target archer, deer hunter, processing his own meat. Like you've got a story.
Oh my gosh.
What? And these are things I think about.
That's wild.
So like the only reason I go to the gym, I hate working out. I hate exercising. It's not fun for me. Like I'm getting old and fat and tired. It's just not fun for me. But I go because like I want to shoot my bow good. I want to be able to drag a deer out of the woods during deer season.
That's your motivation.
So
I respect that.
Yeah, that's my motivation. What exercises do you recommend in the gym or stretches or whatever that would help with hunting or target archery?
Squat.
Heavy
squats.
This podcast is over.
heavy squats and a whole lot of pulls. Yes. I wholeheartely believe that they help. And there's a reason behind it.
I'm definitely.
And I'm sure that's what you wanted to hear, the pulls, and for me to stay with certain band work and certain things like that. And I am not opposed to it. And I think that is obviously the foundation. I'm obviously that's what's actually working for the most part. But I think what we forget is that we are still ground based. We are not actually hunting while we are doing target. And I think so many times where we forget that the whole system is still at work when we are standing, because we become so efficient at it for the most part when we are stabilizing. And then people will I've seen people where they will promote like stabilizing bars that kind of promote more like intrinsic stabilization inside the system while at full draw. I remember my boy was trying, like recently, as I've got into target, I obviously met some guys that shot some indoor target, and he was telling me about some drills that he does with some of his kids. And I was just like, why don't you just put a barbell on their back and tell them to squat? Like, that will do way more for their core and learning how to stabilize in space than balancing on a Bosu ball will ever do. And so, and to give a little bit more detail to that, if I can, and you cut me off if I'm going a little bit more detail.
No, this is good stuff. Like, I'm going to be taking notes, so
all right,
go all in.
Cool. But I think what we forget is just like with the fact that everything starts at the ground. And so the more stable I am at the ground, the more stable I am up top. And I think what we are seeing when we have magnification is actually instability in our whole system. Whereas some people think that it's only up top. It's like, you can be as strong as you want, but if you put a cup and try to balance it on a little pin, like that thing, like, I don't care how, like, this thing is going to tip over. Like, you can do whatever you want. If you don't have a solid foundation that's widespread, that can actually stabilize to the base, then you're not getting anything. And the big thing that a lot of people think as well is, oh, well, balancing on a Bosu ball, like, I'm trying to keep my core stable. It's like, okay, but what does the research say about core stabilization? What actually recruits the most sensory perceptors inside of our core? Putting heavy weight on the back and having to support that through your whole system. Like, because you have to support that in space. So, like, I'm a big proponent of free weights. I'm a big proponent of actually progressive overload. And that doesn't mean every day you're trying to go up. There's a systematic approach that you can go into a whole lot of different ways of periodization, but it's basically the system of overloading. I made a video about it in regards to how some archers will actually do it without even knowing it, but they do it on a smaller scale with, hey, I'm going to start this season off with maybe 2 ounces up front, but I want to get to the point where I can comfortably hold 8 ounces up front because it's going to benefit me when the nerves start getting higher. A lot of people will do the same thing in their actual training, but it would be before the season gets here, before the things get here. And then you talk about hunting, like, nothing's going to benefit you more than having a strong base and walking in the woods and not feeling as tired. Even cardio people, you talk to a CrossFitter or people that do long distance, the stronger that athlete is relative to their sport. I'm not saying a bodybuilder can go and be some cross-country guy. That's not what I'm proposing or saying at all. But the stronger you are throughout the whole system will benefit you. Now, in regards to sport specificity, which is what a lot of people kind of live and die on, outside of the specificity of stimulating the whole body for growth, which a heavy back squat will naturally do, and you'll feel your body just feel better overall. Not while you're under the weight, of course. It's going to feel like crap while you're under it, but on purpose. But when you progress from that, then it also sets you up for, hey, well, now I need to do my shoulder health because I want to send 300 arrows a day. And you're not just going to do just sending 300 arrows a day and think that your body's going to be okay with it, because it's too general or it's too specific to particular muscle groups. So going into the sport specific stuff that everybody wants to actually talk about, that's where I would say, so getting into some pools and pulling at different variations. So still doing your high rows and then still doing some type of horizontal pull and then still doing some type of vertical pull. And so, but you can't stop there either though. And this is still going to be like, well, so you're just saying train the whole body. Yes, I am. Because I still think, and if I had to be specific, I'd probably say get into some overhead pressing as well. So where you're actually putting it in reverse if you were limited on time, you didn't have all the resources. But I would say still get into some overhead pressing just in regards to taking care of the front of the delt as well. Because what happens is when you stimulate, like, some particular muscle groups, like if we're only using our rear delt, which is the rear back of my shoulder, and the lat, which is my big muscle on my back. If I'm only using those, then it creates an imbalance inside of my body, which leads to overuse issues. And then with the overuse issues, your body's trying to compensate, but when it tries to compensate, it has nothing else to pull from, which is why training the full system is so important. But not to go into any more details. I feel like I'm about to go way too deep down the rabbit hole, but that's like general principles that I would encourage, that I program for myself, that I would when I talk to people, I give usually a lot shorter of an answer. You got a little bit longer of an answer, but there's way
Dude,
more to it. But yeah,
I got a degree in kinesiology and a minor in health, so I love that stuff. Now,
dude, let's go. I
I'm
love
40.
it.
I'm fixing to turn 40, so I'm not 20 anymore. So
Hey, that's
I don't
okay.
enjoy the squatting and power cleaning and all that quite as much. But I guess I got to
Yes,
start squatting tomorrow. So thanks a
you
lot for
do.
that.
You
But
do. Get back
but
into
hey,
yourself. You know that if
hey,
you're in that field, you know about periodization,
I
man.
do,
You
and I
gotta
turn into
you gotta start overloading.
that guy that everybody hates. And I'm like, leg days for losers, you know. So, one last question, and you kind of hit on it. Like, how many ounces of weight are you running on your stabilizers?
Gosh, so I don't know. On my back bar, I'm not 100% sure. I know I have 3 brass plates plus, so I have 5 ounces up front, and probably about, I think it's 3, 6, 9, probably about 12 or 15 ounces out back. So I like
Yeah.
a lot of weight. I'm playing with 2 different ideas right now because I've always played with the idea of just keeping it balanced in my hand, and just I wanted to just sit here. And then, just like I said, I'm pretty new to especially the indoor world, and I ran across the biased setup where you kind of set your bar off. I can't remember his name right now. Um, Gosh, this is crazy. It's like one of the Gavins. I don't. This is wild. I don't even know. Chris B is like mentor and UV. The guy out in Georgia,
George Riles.
George Riles. But what's his real name?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to remember. It's like
Is it
whatever.
not George Riles?
No, somebody they call him something
Griv.
else.
They call him Griv.
What is
Yeah.
that? That's the name I was
I don't
trying to
know.
remember.
I don't know what that
Whatever.
means.
So I ran by George Riles stuff where he was like, man, having a bias to your bow helps you stabilize under pressure. I've been running that because it's outer season and I'm just kind of like seeing what I like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I like it. Because I still like a lot of back weight because I like the way it kind of creates a more balanced feel in my hand. I also run a pretty high D loop where it's running pretty high through my burger hole. And so like it's already pulling, and so it kind of balances me out between the two. But I'm not sure I'm going to stay with it kicked out so far. But I do like a lot of weight kind of pulling back than it being forward, because when I'm worried about too much weight up front, I've seen the Mr. Perfect where he runs about 1,000 pounds up front. And I did that one time just to see what it might feel like. And I'd say I did it. I did it with the weight that I had available, because when I bought all my, again, used stuff, it came with the weight it came with, and then I looked at how much it was going to be for me to add more weight, and I was like, $10 an ounce. I was like, godly. I was like, nah. And so all that within relation, I think I might have had about 10 ounces up front, and just me doubling the weight up front, I could not comfortably settle on my thumb peg without feeling like I was losing my back wall, because it just kept on trying to dip. And I would rather have a lighter bow overall than it trying to dip, at least with it being super out front. I don't mind a heavy bow when it's just kind of like the mass of the bow, but when it's out in front, it feels like I'm using so much of my body where I'm almost like leaning back. And I already leaned back kind of slightly in my shot process, but it felt like Perkins, like,
I've done it too. And like you like push your hip into the front, and it gets weird. Your form goes out the window. And do you change your weight throughout the year, or do you just get it like you want it early and you just rock it the whole year?
Well, so this year I got it set and just let it go. I'm very quick to try to fix myself rather than change my equipment. And I'm very weird about, like, if I change something, then I'm going to be mad at me changing it if I fail in competition, versus me trying to just fix myself, which is actually, and I say all that, I actually think I did something going into the final. Oh yeah. So I went from 60 pounds, 70% let off, to 70 pounds, 70% let off, which I'm super comfortable shooting it. but I did that like a week before the big competition because I was made aware of how slow my arrow was actually going, and I started thinking about 3D shooting, and I was like, oh, ASA's coming around. I started watching a ton of ASAs, and I had like basically a month of like downtime, and so I just started messing with my bow, and I was like, yeah, I think this feels good going into that last tournament. And now that's like in the back of my head of like, is that why I didn't do as good as I wanted to do? And so for me, when it comes down to competing, I try to get everything set to the way I'm going to like it at the beginning of the year. But again, it's only been 1 year of me shooting, and I changed once throughout the whole year, right before the big show type of deal. But yeah, it was fun. It was good, but
that's a great first year. If you made it to the Nationals and finished third first year, that's incredible. So that's
I
great.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Man, we'll wrap up and get you out of here because I know we've gone and we could go in depth. We need to get on here and do it again because I could talk about that.
For sure.
Exercising and working out to get better at this. What's your socials and where can everybody get them and follow you? What's your YouTube channel, your Instagram, all that stuff?
Yeah, so my YouTube is just straight up William Alderman. You'll see a black guy with dreads smiling because I was at TAC when I took that photo. I needed to probably change that sometime soon. And then actually I have an Instagram account. I have my personal that is William Alderman, which few people have found me through that. But I actually started a whole different account just to kind of keep things off of my personal where I have all my family photos. And that's actually like Black Box Archery. Coined the idea in my head. I was like, oh, I kind of like that. Black box has a little mystery to it, has inputs that come out, and then it still comes out when you're like, how did I get this? And it has some actual Christian beliefs behind it as well, just in regards to some other like undertones in regards to why it all came to be. But that's where I think everything's going to start kind of going under, just so I can keep things away from my private account. But
yeah, that's a good idea.
How that goes.
Absolutely. Well, man, William, I appreciate you talking with me, dude. I know we had some technical issues early, but it all worked out. And man, for sure. We got to do it again sometime.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, man.
And, man, I want to hear more about your story one day too. Seriously.
Oh yeah. Hey, we can do that sometime too. It's not a very long story. It'd be a real short podcast. But all right, man. Yeah. All right, man. I will talk to you later, man.